What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into the Country Roads webcast. As always, I'm Jordan Cruz. And before I get into this video, I just want to give you guys a quick reminder. If you would, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button. Giving a like on this video will really help not only its performance, but future videos performances here on the channel as well. And if you're a WVU fan and you haven't already, be sure hit that subscribe button. Helps us and it helps you, as it helps get more of this Mountaineer sports content out to Mountaineer Nation. Having said that, let's get into it. And as we get into it, of course, I guess the way to lead off this video would be to say that just 2 months ago, West Virginia's secondary was perceived to be not only a question mark for the upcoming season, but maybe even the weakness of the entire team, the thing that could have held 2024 back from the potential success we're all hoping to have and believe that this team can achieve the upcoming season. And now here we are, a couple months later, nearly through the month of February, and West Virginia has done a phenomenal job here in the first transfer portal window, adding players to that secondary to really compete, and not only compete, but guys that I think are very talented, and that if they don't earn a starting job, will provide depth. You know, we talked about some of those previously, and we kind of thought West Virginia was going to keep it quiet until, spring football practice, and then after that, maybe hit the transfer portal and pick up some players. But fortunately for West Virginia, there were some grad transfers that entered the portal. Despite the fact that the window is now closed, grad transfers can always, move freely. So luckily for West Virginia, not one, but two grad transfers from a Big Ten school there in Northwestern entered the portal not long ago. And lo and behold, both fit West Virginia's needs. We knew that West Virginia needed a safety type player that could play, a nickel position in West Virginia's new type scheme. Think of it as a spear or whatever they're going to continue to call it. In West Virginia's, updated defense they're going to be using this year. We knew West Virginia needed a player to fill that role. They land that. And then a day later, West Virginia needs another corner, and they want to add another cornerback into the mix there with already the talented players they have there to compete for the two starting cornerback positions, as West Virginia is replacing both Beanie Bishop and Malachi Ruffin. And West Virginia goes out and gets a very talented one in Garnett Hollis, 6'2", lengthy frame. So Jaheim Joseph from Northwestern, the safety, commits to West Virginia. And then a day later, we get the announcement of Garnett Hollis committing to West Virginia to play corner as well. So two defensive backs from the Big Ten come to WVU. Let's take a look at both of these guys' announcements here on Twitter that they shared. You see here Jaheim Joseph with his commitment graphic. His commitment came first, coming over from Northwestern. Like I said, more of a safety, but I think he could fit in perfectly to what West Virginia likes to use with that spear role. Think of how Marcus Floyd played it a lot throughout last season when he was called upon to play that position. I think Jaheim Joseph could be a great fill-in right there for West Virginia at that spot, and that was a need for West Virginia. And he had good ratings last year according to PFF. When you look at their ratings here, he was the third highest overall rated defender on the Northwestern defense with an 80.7 defensive grade. Very good, and we're talking about a Northwestern defense that was, top 25 in the country against the pass. So getting two members of that defensive back unit that were both starters, good for West Virginia here. And obviously West Virginia had success adding a Big Ten player last season, picking up Beanie Bishop. We know he became, a consensus All-American, the only transfer player to ever do that at WVU. Good coverage grade for Jaheim Joseph as well, 81.1, but also 77 tackle grade. That's going to be good for West Virginia if he's going to be playing that spear position like I expect he very well could be. So we get the commitment from Jaheim Joseph, a good pickup for West Virginia there to add to the secondary. And then, like I said, a day later, we get the news of Garnett Hollis coming to West Virginia as well. Let me share his X page with you guys and his commitment graphic that he shared when he announced his commitment here, as you see him with his commitment graphic there on social media. As far as Garnett Hollis, I'm super excited about him because he's a cornerback that you can have on the outside with long range. And we know in the Big 12, we've seen some big, tall receivers, throughout the past. Always it seems like there's a 6'4", 6'5" target that you got to deal with, week in and week out almost. So having a 6'2" cornerback would be great for West Virginia. And also, just to go along with that, I think not only does he factor into the competition to maybe be one of the starters, but you look at what West Virginia's compiled, and we'll look at the list of the transfers here momentarily, but West Virginia has enough guys to have a healthy competition this spring. Man, you're going to have a lot of depth in your secondary, and that's something that we were really worried about, like I said, a couple of months ago. And as far as Hollis is concerned, when I look at his gradings on PFF, highly rated as well. One of the top 6 players on the defense there. He has a 73.0 defensive grade. Really did well in coverage also. 6th in coverage, 70.6 in coverage. But what really stands out to him is his run defense grade, impressively enough, 86.0. So who knows how West Virginia will mix and match all these pieces that they now have in the secondary. Kind of a good problem to have with these transfers that they brought in that all seem very talented. And of course, Garnett Hollis and Jaheim Joseph, the 2 most recent additions to that secondary, the 2 very talented transfers coming over from Northwestern. So let's take a look now at West Virginia's transfer additions that they've added here. Now we have, 2 late ones that should both actually be on campus for spring football, surprisingly enough. Let's take a look at our transfer portal tracker here on the Country Roads webcast. All right, and as we pull up the transfer tracker here, you can see I've already put out videos on each of these as they've come in. If you want to check the transfer portal update playlist here on the channel, you can. But Aiden Garnes, very talented addition for West Virginia. They've already added to the secondary. TJ Crandall had an absolutely insane offer list, and he's a multiple year guy that West Virginia should have for the next few years to play West Virginia football. And then, of course, now you add Jaheim Joseph and, of course, Garnett Hollis to that mix. And those are just the transfers. Let's not forget West Virginia has Jacoby Spells coming back, who was a very highly rated recruit. And Montre Miller may get that extra year of eligibility. That's what we're believed to happen. We haven't even got to see him transfer, and I was high on him last offseason. If you followed the channel, I was really raving about him. But now we get to add Jaheim Joseph from Northwestern, as well as Garnett Hollis from Northwestern. Both of their names here added to our transfer tracker as we continue to try and keep up with this on the CRW throughout the offseason. Like I said, we never know what will happen following spring football practice, because the fact that is true is West Virginia is over the scholarship limit currently with, their incoming freshmen that they'll have. But the good news is those freshmen won't be enrolling until, after the spring practice is over. So they'll be enrolling throughout the summer. So you still have time to get that underneath. But I think West Virginia is about 5 or 6 scholarships over, if I'm not mistaken, right now. So after spring football, you will see some movement for West Virginia. Some people will be leaving following spring football practice, but that's typical now in today's day and age when that other transfer portal window opens. I believe it's April 15th or April 16th when it reopens. There will be some movement. West Virginia will, fall victim to some of that, but also that means, we may add a couple more pieces if we have enough people transfer out. But we'll see what happens. I think West Virginia is very solid with what they've got. If they don't suffer any detrimental losses, we could be looking at, a pretty good, glimpse of what the 2024 final roster could look like, more so than in some years past when we've really had to add a ton of pieces following the spring. But I think West Virginia has done a phenomenal job in this first transfer portal window, more so than they have in the past when they've had to really hit home runs in that second window. That's where we got Beanie Bishop last year. So it seems like, having the success to tell to these transfer recruits, the success story of Beanie Bishop being an All-American, come here as a transfer. Maybe now you were able to get these guys to buy in earlier. You get them in this early window. And of course, Neil Brown's job status being solid doesn't hurt either. So I think a lot of things went well for West Virginia in this transfer portal class, and they've really secured a lot of help in this secondary that's going to go a long ways to West Virginia being successful in 2024. In both the Jaheim Joseph and Garnett Hollis, 2 defensive backs coming over from Northwestern, are going to be a big part of West Virginia's secondary, and hopefully a successful secondary in 2024. But those are just my opinions on the 2 latest additions to West Virginia's transfer class. Would love to hear your thoughts on either one of these pickups or the transfer class as a whole as it currently stands. Be sure to let me know those thoughts down in the comments. Really appreciate those interactions as we continue to try and grow the Country Roads webcast community throughout Mountaineer Nation. Having said that, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.